Hi guys, Jim from Boxing Life, and just wanted to give you my thoughts on some of the fights at the weekend. And I'll start off with Beterbiev and Browne. So yeah, I think overall with that fight, it was good. I think Browne started as we probably knew he was going to start. He's a good boxer. He can move around the ring, and Beterbiev does start quite slow um, at times. He's not the fastest guy. He's very patient. He just applies the pressure. But he's a bit like Golovkin in that sense, but he's a bit slower. However, he's probably more powerful than Golovkin, and he relies on his timing more than anything else. And I think that really helps him in the long run going to the tail end of fights, is that he's able to just time the punches eventually after just the excessive pressure he puts on them through just always being there in front of them. And Marcus Browne, I thought he's probably winning the first kind of. I think you could probably say he won the first kind of four rounds in the first six before the clash of heads. And after that, it was a horrible cut. I'm not going to lie, that's one of the worst ones I've seen in a while. Yeah, I think it almost woken up the beast in Beterbiev. Probably knew the cut was pretty bad himself, and from that point on, he just got to work, just started beating down Browne and being the bully, and it worked. And he eventually got him. He got to him twice. I think it was in the ninth he got him down, and then he eventually got him down in the 11th. And I think was it a good performance? Browne. This is what I mean. Browne isn't. He's not. He's not the worst guy in the world. Yes, he lost to Pascal, but not in any ways a bad fighter. And I think he did have some success, but this is the thing with Beterbiev. He's able to just continually apply that pressure and wait for the moment to time you with his powerful shots. And, he's very subtle in setting up his punches too. You'll go to the body, and it's like he has two clubs at the end of his hands, and just one shot, and you feel it. And fair to play to Browne, he gave it his best, but you got to wonder about him using his head now. For me, if you look at the Badu Jack fight, the Pascal fight, look at the head injuries they suffered or the cuts. And yeah, it's no coincidence. He kind of when he goes up to clench, he uses his head. You know, maybe that was the wrong move to make against Beterbiev. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it isn't intentional. But you just look at those fights and you got to wonder. But overall, I think Beterbiev, you know, proved himself. He's gonna have to take some time off for that cut to heal now. And if you guys have been following me for a while, the fight I want to see is Beterbiev Canelo. I think that's the only 50-50 fight out there personally. But if not, I'd maybe like to see the Bivol fight. I think Beterbiev gets through Joe Smith or Callum Johnson with ease if whoever wins the title there. So I think like the next best fight for Beterbiev at this stage is probably the Bivol fight, and it's a fight I would like to see. But yeah, and then next up we had Joseph Parker and Derek Chisora, and it ended up being a fantastic fight. I really enjoyed watching it. I couldn't watch it on the night, but I woke up the next morning and watched it. But in terms of the performances, I think Joseph Parker, I saw improvements in him. I think obviously having Andy Lee in the corner, I think he's a great mentor to have. And he was training with obviously Tyson Fury. And I think just working with them is probably just, I think we saw improvements. And Derek Chisora is no pushover. He's a hard guy to get out there. He's tough. But Derek Chisora, I don't really know what to make of him. I think obviously, it was a good fight. He pulled off some good shots in Joseph Parker, but overall, Parker really controlled the fight. And when Joseph Parker did hurt him, and he did it about 3 or 4 times, I think, in that fight. Was he then, after he got counted by the ref, then he obviously went to the corner to try and tempt Parker to try and get him. And if I'm being honest, Parker should have probably jumped on him at that moment in time and tried to finish him, but he didn't. And this is once again the criticism for Joseph Parker is around that, and it's just it's really frustrating for me, because I've always quite liked Joseph Parker. The one thing I don't like about him is that he's not very good on the inside. As soon as he gets up close, he just clenches and doesn't really tend to like to fight on the inside. Whereas like someone like Chisora, he loves that part of him. But then towards the end of the later rounds, Chisora is so gassed out that he can't even fight anymore like that. He has to clench too. But yeah, you know what? I think if you compare it to the first fight, it was definitely entertaining. I'm sure the fans got their money's worth from that fight. The crowd was going crazy at times. Um, and yeah, like I said, it was a good scrap, but I wouldn't say that, I don't know what to make of Derek Chisora now. He seems to be the guy. He's pretty much the guy that is used as a stepping stone for people, and I think that does wind up Chisora because I think he thinks he's better than he actually is. And I'm not saying he's bad in any way, but the amount of punishment he took from Parker, you gotta wonder, how long can you keep that up? Um, but yeah, he seems to want to continue. But Joseph Parker, I think we saw the improvements. I think we need to see a step up now in that, and we'll see what happens from there. Now, the other fight from that night, which I had a bit of interest in, was Gongora and Richards. And I think this was the huge step up for Richards to see if he could really compete at the world level. And Gongora, he's a powerful guy. He doesn't look like it, but he sure is. And it was they're obviously two southpaws. And Richards just controlled the fight with ease, like he usually does. He kind of just breezes past in these fights. And, you know, it's a weird one he's a weird fighter because he's very skillful, uses the jab excellently well. He's got really good footwork. He's obviously a strong guy, but he just doesn't. You compare him to Gongora. Look at he knocks guys the f out, whereas Sniper Richards is just a bit more. He just takes his time. He's in there. Just doing the sweet science, just boxing, but not really with the outcome of him chasing or looking for the knockout. And that's not a criticism. I think sometimes you need to box like that. However, I think, as we all know, as boxing fans, and even for the casuals, everyone loves to see knockouts. And you think about someone like Floyd Mayweather. He didn't knock out everyone, but yet everyone still came to watch. But he had a sort of charisma outside the ring and persona. And even in his younger days, when he was Pretty Boy Floyd, he was getting guys out of there. Now with Sniper Richards, I feel as a boxer, I think he's tremendous. I really like his approach. But yeah, you do want to see, as a fan, those knockouts. You want to see if you can actually take these guys out here. But you got to give him the benefit of the doubt against Gongora, because he is a dangerous fighter. But fair play to him. He got the job done, and hopefully we can see him in some other big fights at super middleweight over the next year. I guess I don't want to spend too long on this, because I feel whenever anyone talks about this, it just brings the trolls out, it brings the hateful comments, and I just can't be dealing with it anymore. I'm honestly sick and tired of it, because people are so incapable of thinking objectively. It's almost not worth it. Um, and I've only watched one of Jake Paul's fights. It's the previous one, the first Woodley fight. You know what? Like, Woodley, obviously former UFC champion. He was a wrestler, I believe. Can clearly as they say in MMA, strike. He's a better striker than the last guy he fought, but he's not a boxer at the end of the day. He's conditioned to be prepared for takedowns, not to react to feints that will come up top. You'll react to feints that are about to go to the body, if you know what I mean, or to take him down from the legs. And that's just years of doing that. Whereas now with boxing, you're only thinking really of the upper torso, and it's a completely different mindset to have. Reacting to feints and even like your guard and how you should move. And just looking from the knockout, I've personally, there was a lot of clenching in the fight. I'm not going to lie, but it was a much more controlled performance. That's just my opinion. And he got the job done. He got him knocked out, and you could tell he was using feints just before the knockout. Woodley clearly thought he was going to go to the body, and then he went to go as if he was about to parry the shot, and he clipped with the right hand from Jake Paul. And personally, I thought it was a good knockout. And it was a real, he got him. But at the end of the day, I understand why people get frustrated, because it's not a boxer. He was obviously meant to fight Tommy Fury. That didn't happen. So we would have actually got to see him against a boxer. But this was, sometimes this was always going to sell as a backup, wasn't it? And, no doubt Showtime had that on the back burner just in case this was to happen. And, people still get so angry, and I understand why. But, it's blame the game, don't blame the player. It's, if you're going to be upset with someone, be upset with Showtime for showing this guy. Don't be upset with him just, because he wants to be a boxer. At the end of the day, it's Showtime that are using his previous fame to make more money. And it's working. It's getting people talking about it. I'm talking about it. Controversy sells. And that's what it is. It reminds me very much of the Floyd Mayweather narrative. Because let's be honest, when Floyd Mayweather was boxing, especially when he became kind of more money Mayweather, everyone hated the guy. They all wanted him to lose, and that's why they tuned in. I'm not talking about, I'm not comparing him as a fighter or as a boxer. I'm comparing it as a narrative, and it's very much the same kind of thing. People are tuning in because they want to see him lose. People are tuning in because it's kind of a bit of a freak show. Oh, a YouTuber boxing who's turned professional and he's beating UFC champions. People want to tune into that because it's a bit different. At the end of the day, he already had a huge social media following before he was a professional boxer. And it's just people are just so, like I said, are incapable of thinking objectively of why this is a thing. Do I like it? Not in particular, but it's bringing attention. And, I wouldn't be surprised if this kid goes on to fight boxers and beats them. And then there'll be the narrative of people around saying, oh, but they weren't any good. And it is what it is. At the end of the day, this is bringing more eyes to the sport that I love. And whether it's, yes, you might get some young kid getting into boxing because of him. But then that could lead him down a path to learn about the sweet science and learn about boxers from the past and realize that there's more to it than just Jake Paul. And we'll see what happens, comment below, give me your thoughts, guys, on this video. Let me know in the performances below who you felt. I'd love to hear about the other, don't just comment about this Jake Paul fight. I'd love to hear about, what you thought about the Beterbiev fight and the Parker Chisora fight, and even the Richards Gongora, and definitely a very eventful way to end the boxing year. So yeah, guys, I'll, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.